Happy Wednesday, my winners and goal getters. Welcome back to the Getting the Win Show. I am your host, Melissa T, the Procrastination Bully. And if this is your first time, welcome. We're about to dig deep on this one. If you're new to the show, just grab a pen and paper. If you're, be prepared to take notes. Everyone that's been rocking with me, they're familiar. They know to take notes because we get into some deep stuff here. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the connection between the 4 behavior styles and the 5 procrastination styles, and what's necessary to help you overcome those obstacles to break through and be more productive. Okay? It's going to be a bit of a deep dive, especially once we get into the solutions to break through and become more productive. There's going to be some stuff there you likely haven't heard before. So let me start with a brief refresher on the 4 behavior styles, because on previous episodes, I've discussed the 4 behavior styles and the 5 procrastination styles separately, and then kind of, put them together briefly. I kind of glossed over it briefly, but today I'm getting into it in detail. So a quick overview, a quick refresher on the 4 behavior styles in the DISC assessment. So you have your D, which is dominance, right? So those are the folks that take control of a situation. They take the lead. Those are your leaders. They're your quick thinkers. They're your problem solvers, right? Shout out to you if that's you. Put that in the comments if that's you. That's me. So very forward thinking, very assertive. They all about speed. They see the big picture, but only to see what is ahead, not necessarily to see the details. Details are not a pilot's thing. Okay. That's the D in the DISC assessment. The I is influence or influential, or as I like to call it, interpersonal, what ET would call your flight attendants. So these are your people that are the life of the party. They're the ones that are, they're the source of laughter in any room. They are the source of joy. They bring the energy. That is their superpower. Their superpower is energy, and they love people. They love to love on people. They love to help solve people's problems. They have compassion. So those are your eyes, those are your flight attendants. They are all about the experience, making the experience for others better than it would be without them. Then you have your S's, which ET for his assessment he calls the grounds crew. So grounds crew are your folks that, as pace goes, much more methodical. Some will call it slow. We say methodical, right? Because grounds crew tend to be thinkers. So they move more deliberately. They value, as the word says, steadiness. They value routine. Don't rock the boat, and they definitely won't rock the boat either, which will go into a procrastination style that I'll discuss shortly. But they're big on keeping things the same, keeping things as they are, maintenance. So that's grounds crew. Those are your S's, and then you have your C's. Those are what ET calls the air traffic controllers. So they see the big picture just like the pilots, but they operate at the opposite pace. They're much more methodical because they see all the details. Your air traffic controller friends are the ones that poke holes in all your stuff. Sometimes they're not doing it spitefully. You have your people that will poke holes spitefully, right? And there are ways to tell the difference. But air traffic controllers can't help that. Like they notice errors just naturally because their minds are detail oriented. So they'll notice details that are missing. Or as Jack Sparrow said, have you noticed something that's not there to be noticed? That's air traffic controllers. They notice something that's not there to be noticed. So those are the 4 behavior styles. And a quick reminder that we are all 4. What differentiates us is what our natural preference is, the one that we flow in the most by default, without any external circumstances affecting our behavior. We all have a preference. So, as an example, my natural preference is grounds crew. My next natural one is air traffic controller. I'm very detail oriented, but I'm also big on steadiness and routine and consistency. That's my big thing. So like, I don't rock a boat if I don't have to. I'm a sailor, so I've been on more than enough boats that rocked. I'm good on that. You know what I mean? So that's my natural state. However, I do speak up when I need to now. Like I've developed that skill set of communicating when I need to, because I've learned the language to advocate for myself. Okay. So that's just an example. So those are the 4 behavior styles, behavior preferences, right? So a quick refresher on the 5 procrastination styles now. And if you're new to this, by all means, take notes and identify yourself in the comments as you're hearing me run these down. Identify your behavior preference, your natural behavior style, and then with these procrastination styles, put them there as well. And don't be afraid if they overlap. Like, don't be confused or be alarmed by that. We're human beings. We're complex. Sometimes they do overlap. So you have your crisis maker. This is a procrastination style. You have your crisis maker. These are the people that procrastinate on purpose because they love the thrill of working under pressure. They love working under pressure. So, one, it's a thrill for them. But number 2, they're confident in their excellence and they know they're going to succeed no matter how much time they have to do the thing, which is why they intentionally wait to the last minute because they know they're going to crush it anyway. Okay. So, crisis maker. The next type is the dreamer. This is the person that procrastinates because they're dissatisfied with their reality right now. They have mastered the art of escape. So they live in their head. They prefer to just be up here. Like, they handle reality as little as they need to. They prefer to be someplace else. They prefer to be in their head. They prefer to be binging on their favorite shows. That's the dreamer. That's that procrastination style. You have the self-saboteur. This is the person that is capable of getting things done, but for whatever reason, always tends to slip back into something that scuttles their results. They tend to do something that sabotages their goal and, you know, end up asking the question, how did I get here? Or more appropriately, how did I get back here again? Does that sound familiar? Hey, I ain't gonna lie, it's familiar to me. Like, that's one of the procrastination styles that overlaps for me. I'm someone that's a combination of the dreamer and the self-saboteur. And the next one that I'm about to bring up, this is number 4, procrastination style number 4, which is the perfectionist. That's an easy one, right? Perfectionists tend to think a thing to death and overhaul and detail a thing to death. You can already tell which behavior style that's going to point to, right? And then the last procrastination style is the busy bee. This is the person that is technically doing stuff, right? We have to acknowledge that they are working, they are being productive, just not on their luxury item. The busy bee is the one that is executing on priorities, just not their own. And they intentionally execute on other priorities to avoid executing on their own. Okay. So now that we've gone over the 4 behavior preferences, the natural behavior preferences, and the 5 procrastination styles, I'm going to combine them. So if you think about the crisis maker, the ones that are confident in their excellence because they know they're going to crush it and they love pressure, put it in the comments which one you think the crisis maker is. But I'll share with you here, as natural behavior preferences go, those are your pilots. They know they're going to crush it because they always do. They execute. That is their superpower. That is why pilots tend to be leaders in any group or organization. They value being in control. That is their priority. And if unhealthy, they'll tend to wrest control from some of the other natural behavior styles, because to a pilot, if they're a part of a situation and the situation makes no sense to them, they're going to take control and do it in a way that makes sense to them. So the crisis maker, yep, they're like, okay, I only have this much time, but I'm going to get it done. I'll figure it out. And I like the challenge. I love a good challenge. So they'll crush it in that way. Now, going to the dreamer, the one that likes to escape. Think about the behavior style. Clearly, this is someone that is emotionally influenced. A pilot, on the other hand, is not. Pilots are task-oriented people. Okay? So they're more rooted in facts and truth and just pushing things forward, results. That is the magic word for pilots. If you want to win over a pilot, Talk about results and prove them. Like demonstrate, show them your results. And you got them. So for the person that's the dreamer, this is clearly someone that's more emotionally influenced. Since they're unhappy with their reality, they tend to escape from it. So for your emotional behavior styles, now we're dealing with either the flight attendant, the person that is the life of the party, big on energy, loves people, loves loving on people. Then you also have the grounds crew. And the grounds crew are unique in that not only are they emotionally based, they're also task based. They're a unique blend of the two. They focus on tasks and they execute greatly on their tasks because they care about the people they're serving. So it's a combination of the two for them. And because of that, ground crew tend to live both here and here. So needless to say, take a guess in the comments who you think, which behavior style you think tends to deviate towards the dreamer procrastination style. Now, I can speak from my own experience that it is indeed a ground crew thing. Like being a dreamer is indeed a ground crew thing. To a certain extent, it could also be a flight attendant thing because flight attendants, they also tend to value harmony in their relationships. And the moment that there's a break in that harmony, it's a problem. And they tend to avoid the friction. Ground crew do the same thing. If there's a problem in a relationship, it bothers them to their core. And they will have a tendency to avoid the situation because again, they don't like rocking the boat. Former sailor, been on enough of them, don't like it either. All right. So the dreamer procrastination style tends to be attached to your flight attendants and your grounds crew. Sometimes it can also be air traffic controllers, but air traffic controllers tend to be more task oriented and facts based. Air traffic controllers are very facts based because remember, they're detail oriented. They're going to poke holes and stuff. So let's go to that next procrastination style. We've covered the crisis maker and the dreamer. The next one, the perfectionist. Air traffic controller, right? Like you probably already knew that when I hinted at it before. Air traffic controllers are very detail oriented. They think a lot. They think a lot. They live up here. So they have a tendency to think a thing to death, to overview and review a thing to death. Okay. So that tends to be them. Sometimes it can be a pilot if it's someone who is pilot that's like here and like air traffic controller is very close in terms of their preferences and how their assessment results turn out. Sometimes there are many people that are a combination of both in terms of their dominant behaviors. So then you have a person that is aggressive and want to move forward. They want to see the vision realized. But if they're detail oriented enough, then they'll get buried in the details too, or they'll overwork the teams that they're connected to because of those details that they're obsessing over. So then the perfectionist procrastination style manifests. You have the self-saboteur. Think about that. What does that sound like? That sounds more emotionally driven, right? The dreamer and the self-saboteur, very emotionally driven. So a self-saboteur is someone that also suffers imposter syndrome. They deal with guilt in some cases. And by the way, please watch my episode on overcoming guilt and shame. Like that is a big thing in procrastination. That is a huge pin that keeps people locked down. So if you need to cover that, by all means, revisit that episode. It's right here in season 3. It's like, I want to say like 2 episodes ago. But yes, the self-saboteur is struggling with guilt often. They're struggling with imposter syndrome often. And I covered that in season 1, that all the different procrastination styles. That was episode 4, I want to say, or episode 5. So emotionally based, this self-saboteur, right? So which behavior style do you think, or styles do you think would lend themselves to that? Flight attendants, grounds crew. And quite frankly, more heavily, it's going to be grounds crew, because what grounds crew have a tendency to do is lack confidence. They are absolutely brilliant people. And your grounds crew, think about the grounds crew in your life. They tend to be your friends that can do this, with two of them, right? And all of these. And you have a tendency to ask that friend, like, is there anything you can't do or don't know how to do, right? And if you're that person, you already know, like, you've had plenty of people ask you that question. And ironically, even with all of that brilliance, even with all of that capability, ground crew have a tendency to doubt themselves. They have a tendency to doubt their excellence, despite performing in excellence by default. So the self-saboteur procrastination style is typically a ground crew thing. Sometimes it'll be a flight attendant thing. And to a lesser degree, it could be a pilot if the pilot is involved in something that they don't yet know enough about. Once they figure it out, the confidence is there. They're off to the races. They're done. Like, it's executed, right? They're getting it done. But for the most part, a self-saboteur is usually someone that's all up in here and in here. So sometimes that self-sabotage when working towards a goal could be coming from either a fear of succeeding at the goal, meaning a fear of having to fulfill the responsibilities necessary to maintain having accomplished the goal. The fear of failure. A self-saboteur could be afraid of failure, like, what will others think of me when I fail? And of course, that fear of failure also lends itself to the imposter syndrome. Like, what if they see the real me? Like, they like what they see now, but what happens when I mess up? What happens when the mask comes off? I heard it said once before, I believe it was ET, but I'm not sure. But I heard it said once before, like, you only have imposter syndrome if you're actually an imposter. So that's something that would require a true confrontation of yourself. And I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself. I'm getting into breaking through to being more productive there, but just wanted to touch on that. So far with the procrastination styles, we've gone over the dreamer, the crisis maker, self-saboteur. I think we've done the busy bee, right? And so that last procrastination style, okay. So the procrastination styles, right? We've done the crisis maker. We've talked about the busy bee. We've talked about the perfectionist. We've talked about the self-saboteur. We've talked about the dreamer. So we covered all of them and which behavior styles tend to veer towards those procrastination styles. So based on what I've shared with you about those styles, like, comment below did what I shared with you sound spot on? And were there some crossovers? Are there some procrastination styles that blend together for you? Put that in the comments. I'd love to learn more about that. So here's where we get into the meat and potatoes of breaking through. This is a topic that is not often talked about, whether we're talking about the procrastination styles or the 4 natural behavior preferences. What's not talked about often is the trauma responses associated with the natural behavior preferences. And when I talk about these, you're going to immediately make the connection with the procrastination styles. You'll immediately see the connection. So I went into it a little bit with the pilot. You heard me talk about, for the pilots, they love control. They love control. So here's what a trauma response looks like for a pilot. They'll tend to simply focus on the work and avoid whatever the feelings are that were connected to the trauma. They'll just work. They'll just bust through it with the work. Okay? Because what was that magic word? What's that favorite thing they love to hear? Results. They're all about results. So they're just going to push through. A feeling is going to get in the way. It's going to eat up their time. And if there is one thing any pilot is tyrannical about, is their time. And if you didn't know that, now you know what to listen for with the people in your life. If you know someone in your life that's very, very picky about their schedule, they talk about time a lot, whether they're mad that someone wasted their time or whatever, that person is likely a pilot. So just be mindful of that. But yes, they tend to avoid the feeling. So here's where we get into how to heal as it relates to breaking through and being more productive for a pilot. This is the solution for a pilot when it comes to that trauma response. Because here's the question: what if the problem you have to solve is a feeling? Pilots will just focus on the work, they'll focus on the problem solving because that's what they're great at. But what if the problem you need to solve is a feeling? You're going to want to procrastinate if you're a pilot. You're going to want to avoid that. So here's the solution to break through and be more productive. It's 4 words. You need your help. You need your help. In other words, reach out to people, reach out to others, and relinquish your desire, your drive for control. You're one person. Even a pilot has a co-pilot. And even to fly a plane, a pilot needs air traffic control in order to traverse the skies, because a pilot can only see so far in front of him. Air traffic control knows where the other planes are and can avoid the pilot from crashing. You need your help. If you're a pilot and you struggle with that kind of thing, like struggling to face your feelings in terms of the trauma response, you need your help. Find a person that can help you resolve that. Likely a flight attendant, likely someone who is a people person that can help you address those feelings or address that task that you're procrastinating on. Or if the thing you're procrastinating on is more of a task thing and not a feelings thing, then you need your air traffic controller. Find someone in your life that is more detail oriented and can help you with that. One of the things most pilots can't stand is paperwork, because paperwork takes time, right? And it's very detail oriented. Find yourself an air traffic controller to pair up with that can get you through that. You need your help. Those are the 4 words. That's the solution for a pilot as it relates to the trauma response and the procrastination style. With that crisis making, you need your help in order to not wait till the last minute simply because it's a fun challenge or simply because you know you're going to be excellent and crush it. You still need your help, because many hands make work light. The way to get it done faster is to do it with helpful people that can get things done with their expertise. We all have our superpowers. Now, for the flight attendant, their trauma response is to prioritize other people and their needs and put their own needs on the back burner. Which procrastination style is that? Put that in the comments. Which procrastination style is that? That's the busy bee. The busy bee has a tendency to be a productive procrastinator. We talked about that a couple episodes ago, right? Busy bees are productive procrastinators. They're still executing, they're still doing things, but they're not necessarily working towards their luxury item because they've put everybody else's priorities ahead of their own. So the solution for a flight attendant is to practice self-care. Do things that nurture yourself. Focus on your own priorities. Schedule it. And it doesn't have to be a pendulum swing in the opposite direction where you become entirely self-focused. Quite frankly, a flight attendant don't want to end up like that anyway. Like that's not their thing. They're not self-focused, they're people-focused. But pair up with someone that can help hold you accountable to practice that self-care. I have a friend of mine who's in the mastermind with me, and she's high flight attendant and high grounds crew, but she's also high ATC. So she lives both here and here. And several of us who are on the same team together with her, we've all encouraged her to schedule self-care time. She's very busy. She serves a lot of clients. But again, busy bee. But with us encouraging her to do that, what she's been able to do is, 1, schedule that self-care time. And 2, going back to my previous episode about ruthlessly cutting things out of your schedule and then being very careful about what's left. She's learned to use language to cut things out of her schedule. She's cut some commitments out. She's fired some clients. It was necessary. And as a result of that, she's had more time to focus on herself, focus on more of her own goals as it relates to building her business. So that's the solution for a flight attendant that's struggling with that busy bee procrastination style, or even the grounds crew that struggles with that busy bee procrastination style. So now for air traffic controllers, these are the ones that live up here exclusively. They live up here, right? But the trauma response for an air traffic controller is to intellectualize and analyze their trauma. They'll think it through, but they will intentionally not address the emotional part. They'll dodge the feelings part. So they're fully aware of what caused the trauma. They're fully aware of what they're feeling, but they don't necessarily delve into why, because that will force them to face the feeling and feel the feeling. So air traffic controllers can tend to also be busy bees if they're detail oriented. They might tend to execute on a lot of tasks, except their own. So here's how to help an air traffic controller heal. Again, you need your help. All of these are going to involve other people. They're going to tend to involve other people. But embrace your emotions and your intuition, not just the logic, not just the facts. Because remember, you are a complex being. If you're an air traffic controller, that's your natural behavior style, and you tend to intellectualize things, just remember that you are a whole being and that you are allowed to feel. And the faster way to get through the discomfort of the feeling is to feel it, to fully feel it and fully acknowledge it. Because once your body physically expresses the emotion, it can move on. A lot of us are walking around with trauma caught in our bodies. Even if we fully intellectualized the trauma, we fully know when it happened, where all the people involved, all of that. And we may even intellectually know the why. But there's still the visceral part. There's still stuff caught up in here. So embrace the feeling, feel the feeling, and embrace the fact that there is intuition involved in some of this stuff too. Not all things are cut and dry. Not all things are just fact. Unfortunately for you, there is a gray. Pilots and air traffic controllers, they hate gray. They cannot stand it because it gets in the way of logic. It gets in the way of getting the thing done. But you're human, and there is still gray, and you've got to address it. So pair up with people in your life that can help you do that. If you don't have anybody in your circle that can help you do that, connect with a therapist, okay? Someone that can help you compartmentalize and talk through and confront those feelings that you don't want to address. And the same is true for the grounds crew. The same is true for a grounds crew. Their tendency is to be busy bees or dreamers or self-saboteurs. Because again, grounds crew are the octopi. They have a tendency to do 50 million different skills excellently. And because of that, they have a tendency to overcommit, one. But two, if they've encountered a trauma in their lives, they'll intentionally overcommit to avoid feeling the feeling as well. They don't want to deal with the pain. You know why? Because pain rocks the boat. Discomfort rocks the boat. So the solution now for a grounds crew is to, one, increase their confidence. That directly combats the self-saboteur thing. Because if you're struggling with confidence, you build it by keeping the promises you make to yourself. This goes back to what I talked about with microdosing. Microdose small accomplishments, small results, and microdose your rewards when you execute. So that confidence is number one. Okay. Another thing for grounds crew is being open to change. You've got to be open to change. You can't be so rigid. Grounds crew and air traffic controllers have a tendency to be big on routine and steadiness. They don't like change. But as for the grounds crew, I encourage you to be more open to change because change is where growth happens. And if there's one thing I know about grounds crew, at least I can speak for myself as a grounds crew, I embrace growth. I don't like change, but I do love growth. And since I know change is necessary for growth, I've become a lot better in embracing change. So if that's you, if that's something that you struggle with, feel free to use that connection. Feel free to internalize that as a way to kind of barrel through change. Because remember, you only need just enough willpower to go from this thing to this thing. I talked about mastering the transition several episodes ago in season 3. And that's big in terms of beating procrastination, mastering the transition. So we talked about increasing confidence for the grounds crew, being open to change. And the third one for a grounds crew is confrontation, practicing, mastering confrontation. If you go back a few episodes, I talked about some ways to professionally and respectfully say no to things because grounds crew, we have a tendency to have a yes problem. We love telling people yes because we don't like disappointing them because we care about them. But the truth is, we do need to say no sometimes. And because grounds crew have a tendency to live here and here, our overthinking tends to be muddled with our emotions as well. Air traffic controllers overthink as well, but they're rooted in facts. Grounds crew overthink not only with facts, but they'll overthink with emotion too. Grounds crew tend to internalize a lot, very, very often. So while the word confrontation tends to have a negative connotation, let me clarify it for anybody that's never heard this before. To confront something isn't necessarily to confront another person. To confront, if you break up the word, con is Latin and it means with. It's usually together with. And then, of course, front. It's whatever is in front of you. So any confrontation, it's you and the other person having a conversation facing the issue in front of you both. So technically, you're not there to confront the person. You'll be there and the two of you will be confronting the issue before you. So if you're avoiding a thing because you've made the commitment, the day is coming up, you really don't want to do it, but you've made a commitment to a person that you love because you love them, you have a yes problem. This is where you would have a confrontation where you have the conversation with them like, listen, I know I committed to this. However, I've got this, and this going on. As I mentioned in the previous episode, they'll understand. They'll understand. Even if they are disappointed, the worst case scenario is that discomfort that comes from knowing that they are disappointed. You haven't lost the relationship. They'll understand and they'll move on. Or if it's something that's more emotional, say for instance, you're a grounds crew and you work with someone that's fast moving. Maybe they're highly social. Maybe they're a flight attendant because flight attendants move at a very quick pace. And since you're someone who's loyal, you're big on routine, you might see the flight attendant moving with some other people and you might be feeling FOMO. Confrontation. Have the conversation with your flight attendant friend or leader, whatever the case may be, and talk it through. Like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Like, let me know if I'm off base or anything. And then the person will be like, oh, that's what you thought? No. That's not what it is at all. 9 times out of 10, that's what it's going to come out to. That's what the conversation is going to come out to. because ground crew have a tendency to live in both places. And so reality tends to get warped when those two things come together. And having those conversations are clarifying. So if you prefer something that does not have a negative connotation, you can call confrontations clarifying conversations, because that's literally what they are. That's literally what they are. And that is their purpose. The purpose of any confrontation is to clarify stuff, set the record straight for all parties involved, right? So have clarifying conversations. That can help you move forward a lot faster, because then you're much more clear, grounds crew, on how this person feels about you or what the goal is. Maybe you were confused about the goal, because sometimes we as grounds crew and air traffic controllers, if they're not clear on the goal, they don't move forward. What a pilot will do, if they're in a situation where the goal is unclear, they'll make a goal and push forward and bring everybody with them. But for ground crew and air traffic controllers, they won't move on said goal. Air traffic controllers may kind of do the pilot thing and come up with something that makes a little more sense to them, but they won't necessarily gather others with them, because air traffic controllers don't really care to be seen. Pilots are big on leading people, like they want to amass folks to go with them, control, right? But that's the solution for the grounds crew in terms of pushing past the procrastination styles of the self-saboteur, the dreamer, or the busy bee. Confidence, increasing the confidence by microdosing your wins and your rewards, being open to change, and having clarifying conversations. Practicing and mastering clarifying conversations. If the word confrontation is uncomfortable or negative for you, clarifying conversations. Practice and master those. Because one thing that I've come to learn is that conflict, one, is simply two opposing views of something. That's literally all conflict is. It's two people with different perspectives on a matter. So when you have a clarifying conversation, it rectifies the conflict and it opens the dialogue for ideation and solutions, which is what everyone is after, solutions. Because once you come up with solutions, you can move forward. The faster you move forward, the quicker you get to your results. And that's always the magic word when it comes to beating procrastination. It is all about results. And that's a pilot's favorite word. That is a pilot's love language, results. Okay? So quick recap on those trauma responses, like how to resolve them. For the pilot, they're going to push through and problem solve and bury themselves in the work, because feelings are a slowdown and they are tyrants with their time. They're not trying to slow down for anything. So the solution for that, get help. You need your help. Get help. Because if the problem you need to solve is a feeling, you're going to have to solve it in order to push forward and get the result you want. So find that person that is that behavior style that will complement you, that will fill that blind spot. So if a feeling is the problem, you'll likely need a flight attendant or a grounds crew, or someone who's a combination of grounds crew, air traffic control, that can not only provide the safe space for your feelings, but then also propose some ideas and solutions. The flight attendant will do that too. Flight attendants are wonderful ideators. They come up with ideas very quickly. So you need your help. If you're a pilot, you need your help. Relinquish the need for control. Let someone help you. Okay? For the air traffic controllers, they'll overanalyze, intellectualize their trauma. But here, you're going to need help too. You're going to need help there. Embrace the fact that there is a gray. You don't like it. I know it's not facts. You don't like it. But embrace the fact that there is a gray, and embrace your intuition. It's not all logic. Feel your feelings. Take time to feel your feelings. Schedule out a block of time to do that. because what doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. So take time to feel your feelings with someone that is a safe space, whether that's someone you know in your life or a therapist, whatever the case may be. Take the time to feel your feelings. Go over those intellectual parts, the what, when, why, how, all of that. And then be open to embracing that spontaneity a little bit. Like, it's okay. Things do adjust, things do shift, because air traffic controllers love steadiness too. They are big on routine. They don't like change. So embrace change as well. Letting go of the overthinking. We got to stop overthinking. Air traffic controllers, get out of your head sometimes, okay? Get out of your head sometimes and be present, okay? For our flight attendants, your tendency is to put everyone else's needs ahead of your own. Can't do that. I just shared with a coaching client last night, because she is an interesting combination of flight attendant with some grounds crew and air traffic control, because she's a graphic designer. One of the things I shared with her is, I need you to remember that you too are a luxury item. God designed you too. So yes, it's important for all the people you're serving, all of your clients that you're serving. It's important for you to serve them and fulfill their priorities. But remember that you too are a luxury item, and God assigned you some things to do because you're a luxury item as well. You can't delay those priorities. He gave you the assignment. If you have ears to hear, hear that. If that applies to you, hear that. That is for you. You too are a luxury item. Do not put yourself on the back burner anymore. God is waiting on you. There are certain things he assigned for you specifically to do. Sure, he can assign it to anybody else, but why not you? So the solution for the flight attendant that tends to put other people's priorities ahead of their own is to practice self-care and pair up with somebody that can hold you accountable to that self-care, that can hold you accountable to schedule the self-care and to build that relationship with yourself up, so you can feel your feelings and push forward and go back to peopling, because we know how much you love people. But here's the thing. When you put other people's priorities ahead of yourself, aren't you technically kind of betraying your nature by not taking care of yourself? You're people too. You count as part of people too. You're a person. If you're a person's person, you got to include yourself. So yeah, that is a solution for the flight attendants. And self-advocacy, self-care, and assertiveness. Assertiveness. Flight attendants are great at defending other people that they care about. But the one thing you'll need to do, and the one thing you may need your help for, is advocating for yourself, protecting yourself, being assertive for yourself. Okay? And then, of course, for the grounds crew, building confidence, embracing change, mastering those clarifying conversations, aka confrontation. That is how we break through and break forward as it relates to those 4 behavioral preferences, the 5 procrastination styles, and the trauma responses connected to all of them. That is how we push forward and become more productive. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Feel free to hit me up if you have any questions. You can find me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads at Getting the Win Show. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube at Getting the Win. In the meantime, have a blessed and productive rest of your Wednesday and a blessed and productive rest of your week. Peace.